Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Jess and I are just totally, we don't want to stop talking about True Detective. If you haven't caught it, the new series on HBO, it's definitely really good. And the news had it out today that the president is heading off to Palm Springs for President's Day weekend, because after all, it's President's Day weekend, and the president gets a weekend. And he's going to play golf, and he's going to binge watch True Detective. Yeah. It's good if you have HBO. I hope you do, but if you don't, they really, man, they put out some good series. So, also good on TV last night, but heartbreaking. The Pitt Syracuse game. Oh my God. For you basketball fans out there, I got to tell you, what a heartbreaker. What an lost at essentially the buzzer by a three-point shot, the likes of which you have never seen. It just, whoosh, I don't even think it touched a thread of the net. Man. And then the five Pitt players were just frozen. They just stood there, paralyzed, while, of course, all hell broke loose on the Syracuse side. Syracuse, number one, still unbeaten, but man, they sure looked like they were about to get beaten. Wow. Pitt can hold its head up high. That was a hell of a game, Pitt. Thank you. God, you guys. So, if you're getting the impression that I'm spending a lot of time watching television, you're absolutely correct. I can't stop. I'm just stuck in front of my screen. And here's part of the reason why, and I'm going to share it with you because I want you guys to be the first to know. I have been charged with putting together a one-woman show, the woman being me. And this is quite an undertaking. And to begin the undertaking of it, I don't like the word undertaking all of a sudden in regard to this because it sounds like it could be DOA, but no. To start, I had to look at what material I have. And I have been, for the last week, slogging through all of the video that I kept. And believe me, most of it I don't think I did. The video that I had in my possession of my work at WTAE television. And we're talking the years, I'm not seeing much before 82. We're talking 82 to 90. That's the last of the stuff I've seen. So we're looking at a very young, thin Lynn Cullen. And that in itself is a bizarre thing to have to do, to watch yourself and your work from way back then in such excess that after a while, you know what I didn't know about myself and the work I did, which is so obvious now watching it in this concentrated manner? Oh, I'm surprised somebody didn't shoot me. I could not get through a story. I don't think I could get through 1 minute without at least 2 puns. I'm punning all the time. And if you had asked me, were you a punster? I would have said no. Mm-hmm. I had no recollection of being so, too much. And I want to say to my young self, too much. Pull it back. A little, it's like pouring too much salt on something. You ruin it. Just a little. But to sit there and I forgot why I was telling you this. Oh, because all I do, and then to take a break, I want to watch somebody else. So I've been watching True Detective and basketball. I'll get it right the third time. Games. So anyway, when this one woman show does happen, it's only going to be a one-night occurrence. Unless there's a great demand, and I don't know where I would do it, but it will be the only thing that forced me to do it is that it was suggested that I do this as a benefit. And once I knew that somebody was expecting this to help raise a lot of money for something, then that is the motivation I need, because just to do it for me, it never would have happened. So now, benefit for Planned Parenthood of Western Pennsylvania, on whose board I sit. And I'm going to put this baby together. So it will be a benefit performance, still in the earliest stages, probably going to be, will be sometime in the fall. But just so as you know. And it might be a good show. I don't know. I've got so much stuff to work with. Blah, 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 blah. I'm not quite sure. So a lot of it will just be me telling stories. And those of you who've been listening to me for 100 years will have heard many of the stories before. But there'll be some looking back at some of my better work. Amazingly, there is no video of Chuckles. Why isn't there video of Chuckles? The guy was taking pictures when I was in there. There is no video. But I have come upon video that I thought I'd forgotten, of me taking a lion for a walk on a leash, and the lion all of a sudden deciding, wasn't so sure wanted to do it, and taking a swipe at my leg and attempting to take me down. But I was saved by the guy that was there for my safekeeping. Stuff like that you absolutely forget even happened. I was almost eaten by a lion. Jeez. Fun stuff. But, wow. And what I'm thinking is that at some point, I'm going to find somebody who can put some of these pieces up on YouTube, because some of them are pretty damn funny. They are funny. And I think some of you might get a kick out of them. So that's just by way of information, and to pencil in undetermined date in the fall of 2014. Gotta see Lynn Cullen show. The one-woman show. Okay, so I'm looking at the movie guide in the paper today because, well, as I've just told you, I'm somehow in this rut where all I do is stare at screens. And listen to this. Have you ever heard this? You know how movies are rated? PG, PG-13, blah, 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 blah. Here's one for a movie called Winter's Tale. Have we heard about that? Mm-hmm. Oh. Mm-hmm. Akiva Goldsman, who won an Oscar for the screenplay of A Beautiful Mind, which was that wonderful movie starring Russell Crowe about this genius with schizophrenia, or phrenia, whichever you say. Anyway, this same Akiva Goldsman adapts a novel and directs the romantic fantasy set in mythic New York and spanning more than a century, starring Colin Farrell and some other people. And Russell Crowe. He must really like Russell Crowe. Or she. Anyway, it says here, PG-13 for violence and some sensuality. What's wrong with sensuality? What do people have to be warned about some sensuality? Now, there's other movies that you're warned away because it has strong sexuality. Now, that's different than sensuality. Have you ever seen that before? I'm just asking. PG-13 for depictions of some sensuality. I mean, sensuality could be like, it could be, my tactile senses. Or, I mean, what's wrong with sensuality? Somebody has to be warned about it. That's all I'm asking. For that matter, what's wrong with sex? They have to be warned about. On the other end, I can see why violence is something you'd want to warn somebody about. But if you start looking at the warnings, there must be some long list that whatever the group is behind these ratings, I forget, the motion picture censorious folks of America or something, when they must have this, all of these possible things that then they plug into why the movie gets the rating it does. But I have never seen sensuality as an issue. I'm just saying, what would the world be without sensuality? There'd be no art. There'd be no music, no dance, no life. Sensuality! Colette, I hadn't heard this, so thank you very much. Colette has written, because yesterday when Jared Day was here and it was President's Day, it wasn't President's Day, it was Abraham Lincoln's birthday. And then David D'Angelo of Two Political Junkies informed me that it was also Charles Darwin's birthday. And so we were saying it's a pretty auspicious day to have been born. If February 12th is your birth date, man, you got some serious company there in Lincoln and Darwin. And then I opined, you don't think they were born on the same year? I mean, in the same year, do you? They couldn't have been born in. And Jared and I both thought, no. Darwin's born later, isn't he? I mean, he lived a lot longer than. So it turns out, and Colette tells us, no, Darwin and Lincoln were born on February 12th, 1809. The exact same day. Can you imagine? So in this log hovel in Kentucky and in, I don't know where, in England, two little babies came into the world on that same day. Two little babies who would have such an extraordinary impact on human history. That's a pretty auspicious date. So, if you were born on February 12th, 1809, man, you really have some auspicious company, but I suspect I'm not talking to anybody who's still around to hear. Pretty amazing. As I mentioned yesterday, Tom Sokolowski, who usually joins us on Thursdays, not here today, but this is the last time he's not going to be here for some time. He has had and has beaten back a nasty kind of medical situation, and he is on his feet and just gaining a little more strength, and will be here on Thursday next. And we so look forward to that. Hello, caller.
Hello, this is Jerk from Canonsburg.
Jerk?
As you're talking about Darwin and Lincoln.
Yeah.
I'm thinking one's born in America and the one's born in England.
Uh-huh.
Technically, they're not born on the same day. Darwin was born the day before Abraham Lincoln.
Well, no, but doesn't it
The
depend?
date's the same.
Wait. Doesn't it depend on what time? Listen, there's a
Wait, as you said that, I went, oops.
There's just like a 5-hour difference or 6-hour difference. So they're so they could well have been the same day.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. You know what? You're right.
Uh-huh.
If you go to Central Time.
Well, Kentucky is Central Time.
Okay. Yeah.
It's 6 hours.
I don't know exactly, but I was thinking, as I'm saying,
From Central Time.
When you said that, I was like, that's right, they didn't cross the international date line.
No, they didn't, Mr. Smarty Pants, Mr. Jerk.
Don't call me Smarty Pants now, because I just said a dumb thing. Although those are two of my favorite people.
Isn't that amazing, though, that they were born on the same day?
It really is. I was born on the same day as Bill Clinton and Gene Roddenberry.
Really? Same day and...
Not year.
No,
I'm
not
a lot
year, because
younger
you're
than
not.
Bill Clinton.
Yeah, you are younger than
Roddenberry, but the same day.
Okay, well, that's cool.
And another two of the same, I'm a Star Trek guy, and
well, that's
a
pretty
talker
neat.
and a bullshitter like Bill Clinton.
Well, I'm glad you just stopped at talker and bullshitter. I mean, you could have. There are other adjectives to characterize William.
Yeah. I use that just so I can cuss on the radio.
Oh, okay.
I don't use too many curse words, but I said, I was going to say BS. I said, let me actually say the word, because that would be interesting.
Well, that's because it's not really radio.
Yeah, I know, it's internet.
Because the FCC isn't. FCC, meh.
Well,
We
you
can say
feel like correcting me today, don't you?
No.
I'm just messing around.
So, yeah. And I have no idea who was famous born on my birthday, January 18.
You can look that up on the internet, or you can have Jess do it.
Jess is...
I'm already on it, Claire.
Yeah. Did you hear that? She's already on it. We're giving you a hard time today. Did you appreciate Sid Caesar?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Matter of fact, when I was going through my Jack Benny phase, I was listening to a lot of Jack Benny. But and then I ran into the show of shows, on the internet, and I watched a bunch of those. Of course, I wasn't around really when the stuff was coming on live.
I was.
So but I always liked Mel Brooks, and all that kind of stuff. So I went through. Yeah, I really appreciated Sid Caesar.
I really doubt if there was ever a time when there were more funny men sitting around the same table than just a normal day at your show of shows when they were sitting around writing. I mean, my heavens.
Mm-hmm. There's Louis C.K.
Yeah.
You realize how many people he worked for before, he was a writer for a lot of shows. And you wouldn't know, if you don't look at his bio, you don't know how many shows he wrote for before he became Louis C.K. It's almost a Mel Brooks kind of thing. Like a lot of those guys, like Chris Rock and Louis C.K. and those kind of guys, they're good writers, and they have good writers behind them. Mm-hmm. And but since there's so many of these shows on, you don't realize it that because they were in early television, that's why they're
right.
But Mel Brooks. Wait a minute. I'm sorry to go on a tangent. Have you ever watched Jerry Seinfeld's Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee?
Yes.
The one with Mel Brooks and
I haven't seen one with Mel Brooks. Ooh.
I can't think of his name. The guy who wrote the Dick Van Dyke Show.
His name was and
he played. He was
Mel Tolkien.
No, the guy who was in the show of shows with Sid Caesar.
Larry Gelbart?
No, this one's obvious. I can't think of his name.
What do you mean? He was in it.
His son that was Meathead on.
Oh, Reiner.
Yeah, Carl Reiner.
Okay.
Carl Reiner. That it's supposed to be with Jerry Seinfeld and Carl Reiner going to get coffee, and then Carl Reiner says that he and Mel Brooks have dinner every night and watch Jeopardy. So what ends up happening is Jerry Seinfeld goes to Carl Reiner's house and has dinner
while they're watching Jeopardy.
And Mel Brooks. And it's hilarious.
Oh man! Thanks for the tip. I'll look for that.
That's the best one out of all of them. That one and the one with Chris Rock where they get pulled over for speeding.
Oh wow! Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Goodbye, you.
Goodbye.
Yeah. Yeah, Sid Caesar. Wow. I mean, so the Show of Shows was on like mid-50s. I was a little kid, but I know my parents had it on in the house, and so I was very focused on Imogene Coca because, because she's the only girl in it, and she was funny. And women in comedy often got, and to a certain extent still do, short shrift. She was amazing. And as amazing as Caesar was, if you ask me. However, wow. And he, if you look at that group of writers that he had, from Mel Brooks to Rob Reiner, Carl Reiner, to Woody Allen, to Neil Simon, to Larry Gelbart, to Mel Tolkien, who was, he wrote most of All in the Family, by the way. Also, the guys who wrote Fiddler on the Roof were Sid Caesar alums. And the Obit, it shows that how so much of sort of what happened there informed all of the work of these, brilliant comedians and writers that I just mentioned. So that the New York Times Obit suggests that but for Sid Caesar, it's, there would not have been the Dick Van Dyke Show. There would not have been MASH. There would not have been All in the Family. There would not have been Saturday Night Live. There would not. He created that genre, and he was as often geniuses are, and this is what we were talking about with Philip Seymour Hoffman, with that ingenious, creative personality. So often, there is such pain and self-doubt underneath it. So that it is not unusual when we hear that these great men, these great artists, these great comics are tortured souls who often succumb to drug addiction, alcoholism, serious depression, that kind of thing. And Sid Caesar was no different. By the age of 30, that's how he was young. By the age of 30, Show of Shows was already well on, and he was already heading toward serious alcoholism. And he had explosive rages. In fact, I had heard this but thought it was an apocryphal tale, but there it is in the Obit. He once hung by his feet Mel Brooks out an 18th story window. Can you imagine? He did. And the only thing that kept Brooks alive is that some of these other writers just actually restrained Caesar. And the other amazing story is he was horseback riding, and the horse that his wife was on threw her. And he got off his horse and walked over to her horse, and with one punch, knocked the horse out. And that scene, if it sounds vaguely familiar, was resurrected in Mel Brooks' Blazing Saddles. Wow. A big fan of his, Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein loved him. He was 3 before he could talk, and I think the same was true of Einstein. So people thought he was a stupid kid. He was not a great student. He was just a genius. Unbelievable. Master of improvisation. And really the output, his ingenious output, really was only there for 4 or 5 years. It's 1950 your Show of Shows was on? Oh, God. We didn't even have a TV set. To 1954. Imagine this. It was a 90-minute show, weekly, live. There's no one who would attempt such a thing now. No one. You have to be out of your mind. And it was so popular that a group of Broadway theater owners actually appealed to NBC, which ran the show, to move it to another night since it was killing their sales on Saturday nights when it aired. So rather than go to a Broadway play, America stayed home and watched your Show of Shows, and I think America was undoubtedly making a wise choice. So Sid Caesar, great guy who was really if you look at the beginning, was the beginning of all the laughter we have had in our lives. Much of it. So who was born on my birthday? This isn't a bad crowd, and especially since I'm madly in love with the first one. Cary Grant. Cary Grant and I were born on the same day. And none of these others float my boat except A.A. Milne, who, of course, wrote Winnie the Pooh, which I was brought up on. My mom so loved Winnie the Pooh and anything A.A. Milne wrote that I, as a child, when my mom read books to me, it was invariably his books, and I'm glad to see he shares my birthday. Cary Grant, A.A. Milne, and Lynn Cullen. What a trio. All right, guys. I don't know where this show's going. Actually, there is some news that I do want to talk about. And generally speaking, it's not our usual fare, but it's stuff that I have something to say about, and maybe you do as well. And ideally, that's the way this kind of a format works. We talk. Not just me. We talk. You can email. You can call. Either way. I'll be right back.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
Join 1 Billion Rising Pittsburgh for a global day of festive resistance to end violence against women. 1 billion women assaulted and raped worldwide is an atrocity. 1 billion people dancing to end violence is a revolution. We will rise on V-Day, February 14th, 12 to 2 p.m., Market Square. www.oneBillionRisingPGH.org. Strike, dance, rise.
BergBargains.com is your best bet for great deals in the Berg. Log on today for exclusive bargains from your favorite local restaurants like Steelhead Brasserie, Atria's, Verde, Burger, the Pittsburgh Grill Downtown, and the Bangkok Balcony. Sign up for the weekly email update for your chance to win a $100 gift card from the Swickley Spa. The all-new BergBargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains, BergBargains.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. John Chips. And I'm Dr. Tim Chips. We have a family dental practice that's been in business for over 35 years. We have 2 locations in the North Hills. We are in network with most major insurance companies, including United Concordia, Cigna, and UPMC. Find Chips Dental on the web. Remember, Chips Dental.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn@pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
Wow, so the newspapers are, the PG has just been getting filled with, why am I having trouble talking? If you get the impression I was falling asleep in mid-sentence there, I think you were correct. Jeez. What am I trying to say? Oh, the letter writers taking, just jumping all over television news has continued apace. And now there was a letter today that was saying what I said as well, which is that for some of these writers to be suggesting that Bill Burns was an exemplar of what television news should be is so misplaced, it's ludicrous. So, I mean, I've been stunned by people who have said, why the television news, the local news here is just an outrage. It's blah, 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 blah. Why, where are the men like Walter Cronkite, Eric Severide, and Bill Burns? I thought, Bill Burns? He doesn't belong in there. You know those little tests? Which of these things don't belong? Bill Burns doesn't belong. And finally someone, right? I mean, just because you grew up with him and you thought that was the standard. Wrong-o. Just not. I assure you. So, let's talk about the fact that this newfangled idea, which is very progressive, and runs counter to the whole free market capitalist kind of enterprisey thing. Although, no, it doesn't. Let me think. It's about the new cabs that are coming, that are here. You've heard of these companies? One called Lyft and the other called Uber. And this is, it's not a taxi exactly. It's a ride share. So it's more akin to Zipcar if you don't do the driving. It's like Zipcar plus driver. And I think it's a great idea. This idea comes out of the West Coast, San Francisco, I think to be exact, where it's doing okay, and it's also gotten a foothold in some other cities. It always bumps into the same problem, which it has now bumped into here, which is the local taxi cab companies cry foul and say, it's illegal. They're transporting customers, and if they're doing that, the law requires them to have a commercial driver's license. It's a pretty strong argument, actually. But the way these things work is, you'll say you got a car, and you don't use it all that much, but you don't mind taking it out for a drive, and you wouldn't mind making a little money, too. It's all on the internet. You would, I guess, sign up with one of these companies, and then through the internet, you would be connected to somebody who needs a ride. You go pick them up, take them where they want to go, and then they pay you. Oh, you make some money. Sounds like a good idea, right? Well, my heavens. So, the city's two largest cab companies are going nuts. And they're demanding that the city tell these newfangled people, Lyft and Uber, that they can't do it here. They sent a letter, the taxi guys here, sent a letter to Mayor Peduto, and they also sent him what they considered to be a good law that the city should pass, an ordinance, that would allow police officers, if they see one of these vehicles driving by, to stop it and to ask for the proper license from the driver. And if the driver does not have a commercial license, to, of course, cite the driver for a pretty serious violation of the law. So, here's the thing. The mayor likes the idea of these ride shares. And that's not surprising because he's a progressive kind of a guy. And he says he himself would not be behind or support or sign an ordinance to ban the alternate kind of service. And so we're in for, I think, a sort of an interesting fight over this. Apparently, there's something like this operating in Philly already. So if Philly has it, and they are governed by the same, it's the Public Utility Commission that has oversight of taxis. And you know, here's what anyone in Pittsburgh who has ever tried to get a cab knows. Good luck. Right? I mean, it's universally known. Good luck with that. I have my own stories. You are never assured that if you have set up even in advance that a cab will pick you up at a certain time, at a certain place, let's say to get you to the airport, you are playing with fire because there is no certainty whatsoever that that cab will be there. Believe me. So, I think a little competition like this, in whatever form, would be a great idea. Anything that would make the cabs in this city less of a joke. They not only provide unbelievably lousy service, but you pay an arm and a leg for it. I bet we've all bumped into, if you've ever been downtown, you bump into some poor soul who actually is looking for a cab. Mm-hmm. It's happened to me a few times. I'm trying to get a cab, they'll say, with their hand up in the air. I haven't even seen one. I said, yeah, and the odds are you aren't. I said, you can't hail a cab in this city. And again, it makes Pittsburgh seem like a cow town. Not quite primetime ready. I love the idea of these ride-sharing services and internet-based services. I love the idea of people connecting with people to provide a service and eschewing, God bless you, all of the bureaucratic crapola but you know, I know there are legal issues. There are legal issues, and there have been in other cities that have had it. If an accident occurs, if somebody is harmed, you know, blah, 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 the liability issues and all of that. But, you know, the jitneys that operate in this town, I didn't know what a jitney was when I came to Pittsburgh. I never heard of it. And then it was explained to me that a jitney is a car that operates as a cab, but it doesn't look like a cab, it's just somebody's car. And that it operates in neighborhoods, usually black, where the real taxi cabs don't want to go. Well, so if you have the real cabs, the ones that have the proper PUC imprimatur, and yet they will not serve whole hunks of the population, then you need, the marketplace demands that somebody come up with some other idea. Jitney. Jitneys are illegal. They don't have the PUC stamp of approval. They don't have, a jitney driver doesn't necessarily have a commercial license. But without those jitneys, there are thousands of Pittsburghers who would not have access to vehicular transportation other than a bus. So clearly, there is no reason why a city should be held in thrall by cab companies who provide lousy, outrageously priced service. And if a new idea comes to town an upstart with a different business plan, it should be embraced exactly as Mayor Peduto embraces it. But get ready for one nasty fight. Oh, heavens, years and years and years ago, I remember covering a story. It was an African-American guy, lived on the north side, and he was bound and determined to start a legitimate cab company to serve underserved communities. And Yellow Cab and the other, smaller cab companies that do exist here, they went after that poor guy tooth and nail. And he didn't make it. I think he laid out quite a bit of money. He was serious. It was an entrepreneurial effort. And he was trying to do it the right way, going through the PUC. And they still managed to strong-arm him out. So we are held in thrall by these lousy local cab companies. And to take their side in this battle in any way amounts to essentially harming ourselves. Because these other guys, Uber and Lyft, will shake things up here and also provide perhaps a dependable means of transportation for people, because God knows the cabs don't. Caller, go ahead, please.
Hi. I just, I've lived in Pittsburgh for 20 years, and it's just shocking that how atrocious and horrifying the cabs are. And I've met people that have driven cabs, and they have the most ridiculous reasons for why they won't pick people up. My mom actually lives on the same block that the Hilton is on, or the former Hilton, and they downtown.
Yeah.
And so on Stanwix, and she can't get a cab there.
Well, how can't you get a cab? That's where they're parked. They're parked outside.
Yeah, they're parked a block away. She needs a cab to go to the Amtrak station or the airport. Both cases have happened. Even the airport, they won't take her.
So you mean she has to come to them? They're not going to drive that block to pick her up.
Yeah, they won't go to anybody. It's like the only place I've ever seen that you can hail a cab is if you on the south side on a Saturday night. Now, I mean, you can theoretically, if you step in front of one, that's called hailing. Or if you're 20-something and female and there's 5 of you. I mean, it's the most ridiculous.
Well, I don't know.
I don't understand how everybody in the city is not completely outraged all the time, every time. I mean, in fact, most people are whenever the topic comes up.
But so few people rely on these cabs that there's not there's never enough. We essentially are a cab-less city because you don't even. Yeah. We don't expect...
No one can rely on it because it's impossible. The cabs will never come. It doesn't matter how many days ahead of time you schedule it or where you're going. They never show up.
They rarely show up. And, the Post-Gazette has a story today that says they went right over to Carson Street and interviewed some of the bar owners over there. And the bar owners say... those cabs, they're constantly calling cabs for some of their customers. And the cabs simply don't come. Here's a bartender at Piper's Pub saying, "We'll spend uncomfortable hours apologizing as the taxis never, ever show up."
Yeah.
I mean, for hours.
To clarify what I said, it's if it's 2 o'clock in the morning and everyone steps into the street, which happens when the bars all close, and then traffic is at a standstill and the cab can't get away from you and it's empty, you can get into a cab by stepping in front of it if it tries to move.
Well, I wish there was some way for we, the people, to get behind these upstart rideshare places because they will. I mean, I would much... rather trust some regular Joe to come and pick me up in his car than I would Yellow Cab. God knows I don't trust him.
I think that, it sounds like I've only heard a little bit of what you were saying, but it sounds like they have like some sort of weird legality on their side that they'll, they're going to have more money than the average Joe to fight everything that comes down.
That's right. That's right. That's right. But rise up, Pittsburgh. Thank you.
All right, I'm ready to go.
Okay, all
Thanks,
right.
bye.
And lots of luck to you. Marcy writes, I would have to agree with you. I've always said that our cab service is pitiful. That's the word. I mean, and we're not engaging in hyperbole here. It is pitiful. I love the idea of Uber and other car services coming here, Marcy writes. They should be able to get their PUC license. Cabs do not go into certain communities here. Everyone who lives here knows it. I couldn't get a cab to come to Penn Hills. So what does that tell you? And as you said, even after ordering it well in advance, and I had a guest who was going to the airport, or thought they were going to the airport. The nerve of Yellow Cab to be up in arms. They need competition. Thanks for bringing up this subject. It's well needed. Yeah. I got to tell you, though, from what I understand, and having been in Pittsburgh now for over 30 years, I'll be shocked if Lyft and Uber manage to crack this market. I don't know what the political aspect is that has kept Yellow Cab in its monopolistic, essentially, position. There is one other company that runs, every once we see Vets Cab and Classy Cab. I think they own both of those. But come on. It's just ludicrous. And I don't mean to cast aspersions on all cab drivers. I've met some nice ones, and I know some nice guys who are cab drivers. But, man, that company is a joke. A joke. I mean, I tell a story of being stuck on crutches. I couldn't drive for months and months and months after a surgery on my foot. And I had to get around, and I relied on the kindness of friends, but sometimes I had to rely, what a joke, on Yellow Cab. That's when I came to know the cab company. And forget it. I mean, one of my experiences, I was in tears. I was so frustrated and so helpless. Standing on Forbes Avenue in Oakland after being to a doctor. And standing there I had some papers in my hand, and I had my crutches, and I'm standing, and I went out to wait for the cab. I said, I'll be right on the sidewalk. I was out there, who the hell knows? I mean, in my mind, it was hours, days. My entire life. That cab never came. Never came. Cabs went by me. Great system. And is a system that is just begging for competition, whether they realize it or not. But when you provide such absolutely despicable service, using the word service shouldn't even come into the equation here, because there is no service. It's Russian roulette. Sure, place a call. Sure, have a reservation that a cab will show up at a certain place at a certain time. Oh yeah, you do that. And then pray, because the odds are it won't be there. And anyone in Pittsburgh knows that's true. All right, we're taking another break. Go Uber! Go Lyft! We'll be right back.
Questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Moments in Black History, brought to you by Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield. Have a greater hand in your health.
John Brown made a virtual career of trying to free slaves in the mid-1800s. The son of an Underground Railroad station master, in May 1858, Brown organized an anti-slavery convention in Canada where he revealed plans to create a fortress for runaway slaves heading north. At the end of that same year, Brown helped free 11 slaves. In 1859, Brown tried to seize the U.S. arsenal at Harper's Ferry, Virginia, with a small group of men. Brown led the attack on Harper's Ferry, where he tried to stage a slave uprising, but instead was captured by federal troops under the command of Colonel Robert E. Lee. As a result of his courage, on December 2nd, 1859, Brown was hanged for treason.
Too many of my neighbors affected by stroke, but Highmark is helping us change that by sponsoring our community stroke programs. Caring isn't new for Highmark. I know. I've been a member for 40 years. I'm Jerry Ann Allen, and I'm better with Blue.
We're reinventing affordable health care by keeping the places we call home healthy. It's why our communities are better with Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield. Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield is an independent licensee of the Blue Cross and Blue Shield Association, subject to the terms of your benefit plan.
Hi, I'm Dr. John Chips. And I'm Dr. Tim Chips. We have a family dental practice that's been in business for over 35 years. We have 2 locations in the North Hills. Mention this ad for a complimentary consultation on dental implants. Early morning and evening hours are available. Find Chips Dental on the web. Remember, Chips Dental.
Download the brand new CP Haps app and find out what's going on in Pittsburgh. It's the fun and free app that puts the most popular events at your fingertips. Text events to 77948 to download now and register to win tickets to see Cirque du Soleil's Verikai at Peterson Event Center on March 28th. Plus, lots of great free stuff every week. The CP Haps app, brought to you by Pittsburgh City Paper.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
Okie doke, we are back. In some of these tapes I've been looking through, I used to do this thing called On the Job, where I would take on a job for a day and then, show my total incompetence. The point being that every job is difficult and has a degree. So I was trying to make that point in a humorous manner. I did work as a yellow cab driver for a day, and I did happen to see that piece the other night. And I was plying the Shady Side area, and we did get a call to go pick up at a bar off of Walnut Street. And this couple comes out, and they're feeling no pain. As a man and a woman, they get into my cab. They're laughing. I'm laughing. We had so much fun, and they had gone shopping. And this is all on. It all aired. They're showing me this. They bought these. He bought her all this lacy underwear. And he was saying, "Hey, look at this! We got these!" And there was black lace and pink lace and this and that. Unbelievable. But at least they did the right thing. They called a cab because they were inebriated with their lace panties. But boo, yellow cab. Speaking of cars, extraordinary story if you ask me. Coming out of Tennessee, Chattanooga to be precise. There is a Volkswagen plant in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and the employees of that plant are voting this week on whether or not to do something that rarely ever happens in the South, and that is to unionize, to join the United Auto Workers. And the state, which is a Republican state, Republican legislature, they are going after the state legislature is warning the workers that if they unionize, then they cannot be assured of getting the kinds of subsidies from the state that, in other words, the state is actually threatening the workers that if they unionize, that the subsidies that sort of keep Volkswagen there might disappear. Imagine this. Here are state legislators saying, you unionize, and we are going to potentially help close this factory down. What? You have a factory. You have jobs for people, and you're actually threatening those jobs if the people who hold them form a union? And here's where it gets even more astonishing. Volkswagen, the employer, wants the workers to approve the union. Volkswagen, the management, is behind the UAW. See, we can't even get our heads around this. In its efforts to unionize. They are not in any way opposing the unionization drive. It's clear that they wouldn't mind. Let's put it that way. Here's what Volkswagen is saying. They're used to working with unionized workers. They like the idea of workers being at the table and having representation. And so Volkswagen has said they are very eager to create with the union what is common in Germany, which is a works council, it's called. And the council brings the managers and the white-collar workers and the blue-collar workers all together. And that council sets factory policies, fosters collaboration. Can you imagine? Sort of like a democracy. That's the German model. The Volkswagen would be very happy to have a union to work with. Here is the CEO of Volkswagen Chattanooga. It is a business model that helped to make us the second largest car company in the world. Our plant in Chattanooga has the opportunity to create a uniquely American works council in which the company would be able to work cooperatively with our employees and ultimately with their union if the employees decide they want to be represented by a union. So all this is amicably happening, and the Republicans in the state legislature are literally threatening to stop giving subsidies to Volkswagen if they don't help quash this effort. My head is spinning with this story. And the amount of money being poured into the effort to terrorize these workers into not voting for the union because their jobs might disappear, because that's what the anti-union campaign is saying. You can't unionize. If you unionize, these companies aren't going to come here anymore. Just look at Detroit. But how does that argument work when the company, Volkswagen, says, oh, yes, we're very used to working in this manner in a collaborative way with workers and union representatives, and, we have no problem. So what you have is Republicans in Tennessee basically threatening to destroy good jobs if the people who hold those jobs exercise their legitimate right to organize. And then, on top of that, when the company that they work for, the management, is openly saying they have no problem with this, in fact, they might welcome it, what is going on that the state and representatives, in fact, the Republican representative from Chattanooga is part of this effort saying, if you do that, we could lose all these jobs. Volkswagen isn't saying that. And then you've got the usual Koch brother-y type people moving in. They've got billboards up all over Chattanooga saying, warning darkly about joining the UAW, which they call the United Obama Workers. Now, isn't that interesting? You just put Obama's name in there somewhere and suggest that that Obama is behind this. A vote for this is a vote for Obama. That is how much they are assured of the hatred for anything Obama. So they got billboards all over the place. Well, let's just send some good vibes down to Chattanooga so that this union gets a toehold there. And what a wonderful opportunity to introduce the South and Southern workers to the strengths of unionization when you have management from Europe that knows that a good working relationship between management and labor is the smartest way to run any business, and not the contentious kind of warfare that a lot of American corporations seem to think is a better model. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. All righty. Couldn't help but see that, like, the Republicans always looking for some happy note. They noted that San Diego has elected a Republican mayor, and that he's replacing the Democrat who, was fondling every woman that came within 10 feet of him. I believe that guy's from Pittsburgh too, that Democratic mayor. So, understandably, they decided to go for a Republican this time. And Republicans are saying, you see, even San Diego, California, is moving to the Republicans. Yeah, right. If you look at the Republican that was elected, he's pro-gay marriage. He's an environmentalist. He believes in global warming. He is everything that the Republican Party nationally is not. So that's if Republicans want to win, they can see then that is maybe the way you do win. You run what appears to be, in terms of his policy positions, a Democrat. All right, we're done. Geez, it looks very snowy out there or something. What's going on? Is that snow or fog?
I think it's supposed to snow all day, but...
But we're getting nothing compared to what's happening to our east. And, sorry to all you guys who are dealing with that. Okay, that's it. And so tomorrow, Christopher Potter, you hear me? You're on tomorrow. You guys have a good day. Toodaloo.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.